What is good? We're back. We got a full tripod. We're ready to roll. We got top running back to target right now, because that's what you have to do. You got to target them right now. If you wait any longer, it's not going to work. But really what I wanted to talk about was kind of, navigating the running back waters here. We're getting into the doldrums of the season here, and, running backs are going down. And there's been some running backs that haven't quite worked out. So wanted to talk about, kind of how you guys feel about what to do at this point, and then how to navigate it, and what running backs you would trade or wouldn't trade for. So KJ, how you doing, man?
Doing good, buddy. Doing good. It's just tough out in these RB streets. You know what I mean? Like you're basically putting anybody out there that has a pulse right now. So
yeah, for sure. Big D, how you doing, bud?
Doing awesome, man. Enjoying the evening. I was doing really good until I started to compile the running back list of people that were missing, either for the rest of the season, for chunks of the season. And it's like, there's a who's who. We got Nick Chubb, we got James Conner, Dobbins, Herbert, Montgomery, Achan, Miles Sanders, Kyron hurt himself this week. Roshan, Gibbs, Aaron Jones, CMC CMC got hurt. Jeff Wilson's been on injured reserve coming back. This is a timely show. We're in the midst of it. We've got bye weeks coming up. We've got all kinds of asteroids coming straight at us, man, that we've got to navigate. And so it's time to talk about some of those targets that are still healthy, that maybe are affordable, and that you may be able to pop on and get ready for the ship chasing.
Right. Yeah. So, some of those guys that kind of popped into our brains here to maybe be targeting were guys like Alvin Kamara or Pacheco, Brian Robinson. Tony Pollard is still upright and hasn't been killing it. I'm not sure exactly what he's doing right now. We are recording on Monday. Probably seems like he's doing fine. I needed 4 points out of him. I got 4 points out of him. I know that much. So got a dub there. How do you guys feel about that? Is that, first of all, are you making a running back move if need be, or are you just trying to, just do it as cheap as possible? KJ, what's your thoughts?
With how we've seen injuries just pile, it's tough giving up a lot for basically any running back right now, except for our Lord and Savior Raheem Mostert, right? Like, you got to give up 2 firsts for that guy.
Yeah.
We got 11 touchdowns on the season so far. I mean, the guy is hot fire.
Crazy.
It's wild, man. But yeah, it's tough to give up a lot. So really, you just got to feel it out. I think that people are hesitant to trade running backs.
Yeah, well, that's the other part of it. It's tough to give up the running back,
Exactly. So you've really got to pick your spots. You've got to pretty much lead with conviction. Don't be afraid to at least have the conversation. But yeah, I'm definitely targeting running backs just because I need them. So you cannot make it through the playoffs and actually win a title if you don't have running backs putting up points for you. At least one. You need at least one putting up some points for your team. I've seen people limp through with no RB2, but you need to, guys, and right now is the time to do it.
Yeah. Big D, what's your thought process here?
It's very similar. I mean, I think I'm willing to pay for some guys. If I'm a contender, I might pay up though. I might pay a little bit more. But if I can find the deals, if I can find some cheap deals, if I can trade some of my assets that aren't helping me, and I'm a contender, like, can I trade, like a Burks type of player or somebody like that I was kind of like, he's on my bench, he's not producing points, he still has value. Can I trade him and turn him into Pollard on a competing team? Can I do some moves like that? I don't know if that's a 1-for-1 trade. I haven't done that trade. I haven't tried to do that trade. That's something that I'm looking to do. You brought up the 4 running backs, Brian Robinson, probably the cheapest, Pollard, Pacheco, and Kamara. One of the discussions that we had was Kamara. I don't know if he's worth a late first, but as these injuries keep going and you get into these bye weeks, this is kind of what I was talking about, was like, this is where I might start looking to sell Kamara for that late first, for that team that just is desperate, and maybe CMC is going to miss a game or two, and they need this win. They're going up against the number 2 team, or they're playing for tier base. They're looking for a bye in the playoffs. Those are the kind of players that I might be trying to sell. On the flip side, as a contender, again, I probably would go after Kamara just because he's had the proven record. He looks pretty decent coming back. I might flip for all three of those guys with a piece. I don't know if I'm giving up draft picks, but I probably would go with a piece off my roster to pull them up. And I think of the four players, I think Pacheco's the one kind of oddball for me that I'm just starting to warm up. It's like NBA Jam rules. He's already kind of in that, on fire for the way that the running back have been producing this year, just from injuries, and our overall points are down for the whole year. Like, we won't get too far into that, but just the scores. If you have any leagues where you play against the median, the median is down because the points overall are down. And so Pacheco's one of those players that has my eye, and I think he's still attainable just because of some of the uncertainty in the past with players in Kansas City, running back players in Kansas City in general. That was long-winded, but that's where I'm at.
Yeah, Pacheco was one for me that I was not certainly wasn't in on in the off season, but now through the 6 weeks that we've seen so far, he's just seemingly really worked himself into a pretty good workload that feels fairly comfortable, and it feels like he's one of the constants on the offense at this point. Like him and Kelsey, I feel like, are the two things that I can count on with the Chiefs every week, and we're hoping that it'll be Rashee Rice at some point. But Pacheco is certainly being in that conversation for me as somebody that I would go after. KJ, who would be somebody that you would target? Are you into any of those guys? You got a little bit more expensive or a little cheaper guy that you'd be interested in?
Yeah. So, I mean, I've got a more expensive option and a cheaper option, and they're on the same team. So it's JT and it's Zach Moss. It's just, how do you feel it's going to go, right? Do you have belief that Zach Moss is still going to have a share that's going to be meaningful and it's going to put up points for you? Then you could probably get him on the cheap. I lean JT just because we know that Jonathan Taylor is, Dynasty RB1, at least in my opinion, he still is. I don't know if everybody still feels that way anymore. It seems like we're so quick to just move RBs out the door once they don't do anything for us. But yeah, JT is somebody I'm actively targeting. He's somebody that I would trade a first for. You probably still have to give a first plus a little piece to get him because he is a running back that's under the age of 25 and is just a star running back. But we saw his snaps go actually up to 50-50 with Zach Moss. So that's kind of what we're expecting. And I think it's going to increase from there. So, and he's had 2 games where he has not helped somebody. And he's had a bunch of games before that where he was injured and did 0 things. So this is probably a team that took him fairly high, or has had him, fairly high, had to get him for a good amount. So they're probably struggling right now. You might be able to make that deal and get something out of it. You know what I mean? Just flip them some picks. So that's where I'm going.
Yeah, I don't hate that at all. Another guy that would be maybe cheaper would be Aaron Jones. We've seen him kind of be, I don't want to say Austin Eckler for the Chargers there, but certainly seems to be an engine to provide some spark and make things a lot easier on the Packers. He's been out with injury. What would you guys be willing to pay for a guy like Aaron Jones, or are you into Aaron Jones? KJ, I'll go to you first because I know you're the resident Packers affiliate. So.
I'm trying to get him right now for 2-2s, and I don't think I'm going to be successful, but that's what I'm trying to get him for right now, just because he also hasn't really done anything for the team that he is on currently. They did take him a little bit higher than even I would on draft day. So I'm wondering if they're trying to get out while they think he might have the wheels fall off. So, or just the team in general just has looked kind of up and down. So they might want to get out, and I'm not worried about Aaron Jones. Yeah. I was just basically saying how Aaron Jones is just a set it and forget it running back, and that's pretty hard to come by. And he's actually a running back that puts up serious production that you could probably get for 2-2s, to the right team. So I think he's definitely worth that. I don't know if I'd spend anywhere, like if I even feel it's a middling to maybe even higher first, no way am I doing that. If it's a back end first and I'm absolutely desperate at running back, maybe I'll consider it, but I'd probably want something back, like give me like 2 3s or something back with the first or something, something where I can at least maybe try to piece it together down the road, or even package it together to make another trade.
Yeah. Well, let's say you're a Kyren Williams team, and Kyron's really been helping you go here. Maybe you're going to miss Kyren now for a couple of weeks, but your records, let's say, were 5-1 or 4-2 or something along those lines. Would you be willing to give up? Hopefully, what you're thinking is, a lower tiered one for a guy like DeAndre Swift now, or is Swift still scaring you a little bit?
No, I do it. You have to. Honestly, Swift is just one of those players, yet again, that can make the difference for your team. And if you feel that this is the year for you and you're going to make that push, those are the moves you got to make. No fear, right? In these trades. And if it doesn't work out, make another trade. Keep digging yourself in a hole. No, I'm just kidding. Don't dig yourself in a hole. But yeah, you got to be fearless when it comes to trade. You got to stick with your conviction, do the work, look at stats, review some plays, see if he's actually being implemented more, watch snap shares, see if there's, if there's targets to at least hold their floors, which Swift has. Just do a little bit of research, take a little bit of look, make sure that you're getting something that could actually produce for your team and isn't trending in the wrong direction. But be fearless, man. That's my one thing that I suggest to everybody in trade.
Yeah, I mean, I think if you're having the season where your team, you feel like your team's pretty good, pretty solid, and you lost a running back, or you just need to simply maybe add a running back like David Montgomery or Kyron, who's going to miss some time but could come back and be good. Add another good running back to that lineup, and try not to drop some games here in between, and then make yourself, be a little uncertain going into those, weeks where you absolutely have to win, and then injuries might hurt you even more. If you can build up a little cushion while, you could buy yourself some time to get through some more injuries, because they're going to happen. I had some of my teams that I started out 4-2, all of a sudden I'm like, shit, I'm looking around like, damn, am I about to have to start selling pieces here? Because injuries are piling up. And then, teams that I started, 1-3 on, it's like, oh, here we go. We're back to 500 and we're fucking kicking the shit out of teams. So, that's just kind of how fantasy is. So I agree. I'm never #never scared. How about Mostert? Go ahead, Big D. What'd you have?
Well, I was just going to say on that Swift deal, I like the concept of it. I think that I would definitely go after him after I've gone after some other players. I think that I would try that JT move. I would try a Josh Jacobs type of player.
Love the Josh Jacobs.
I would try even a Kamara, because they probably could get him a little cheaper than Swift. And I feel like floor wise, I feel a little bit better about him. But I definitely am not scared to go after the Swift type character with an aggressive play, because he's shown now, as KJ talked about, do your research, look into it, but he's shown to me anyways, in his play style, the way that he's doing, the way that they're calling that offense, it's a short term, so there is some gamble there, but he can definitely produce, and he can definitely keep you at least afloat, if not in the contender status. And that's really when you're trading for a running back at this part of the season. It's still relatively early. I know it doesn't feel like it, but it's still relatively early. That's what I'm kind of looking for, is that value that can continue on through the season and then have some juice at the end. As we get later in the season, you were just about to talk about Mostert and some players like that. Those are players that I probably wouldn't quite target right now if I'm down a running back or so, just because of the bug of the running back position, of the injuries, and that I don't know if I would, send much for him, or for, I'm trying to think of some of the other older aging, like a Henry. Yeah. I don't know if I would send a lot for him. Stevenson in New England has been, talked about. I know he went out with an injury this last game, but he's had a pretty rough, start to the year. He's also had a pretty rough schedule. So there's a path there where I could see, but again, I don't know if I'm going to give out too much at this point of the season, because there's still a lot of ball to play, and I want to stay competitive. I want to stay in it, but the running back position is just so fluid that it's I'm gonna take my shots. With wide receivers, I'm a little bit more loosey goosey with it, because I know that they're going to hold their value longer, or at least the way the community looks at them, they're going to hold their value longer. With running backs, it's so dark side of the moon. Sometimes it's just so up and down that, that I really, at this point, I'm really kind of being strategic with who I target and what I pay. And then as I get closer to the playoffs, that's when I'll start shoving a little bit harder. I might give a second for a player that, like, you look back at those kind of trades and you're like, why did you do that? And then if you see that gold little bar next to yourself on Sleeper, you go, oh yeah, that's why right there.
That's fine with that. Yeah. So are you guys in the realm of, like, all right, let's say a guy like Charbonnet or a guy like Kendre Miller hasn't really done anything yet. We like the talent. Would you be willing to ship one of those guys out, or, somewhere in this area the next week or three, and maybe add a pick to it to get a running back that's producing now? Or are you willing to, sell a little bit of the new of what could be, or maybe even a Tajay Spears who does have a little bit of buzz, to maybe get somebody like, a Kamara or, a Pacheco or a deal to get a Swift done or something like that? Or are you trying to hold on to those guys in these situations?
Spears, I'm trying to hold. I'm not trying to get rid of Spears. We're definitely we're seeing him more involved. I think he's already cut out a role on the offense. And, if anything were to happen to Derrick Henry, then obviously he even goes up even further. But with the injury to Tannehill, it doesn't look great right now, the whole offense anyway. And they might start selling off pieces. So maybe you can send him off for a premium still, but I'd like to hold Spears. Miller, I'm definitely okay pairing him up. It's not working out the way I thought it was. I still have hope that he's going to be a bigger factor for your fantasy lineup moving forward, but we're not seeing any kind of involvement that you can really use. So if I can make that move and have a usable asset on my roster that gives me a playoff spot, absolutely. Yeah. I'll pair him up and I'll ship him out.
Yeah. I think the only way I'm moving Sharp or Bigsby or any of those backup running backs that could all of a sudden take over the load and be tremendous, like a Spears as well, is when I'm going to go after that stud. Like if I take a first in Spears and go after JT, I would do something like that. And I don't think I would trade Spears or Sharp or any of those type of players for any of the other running backs that we talked about, even if I'm getting something else back. Like if I'm getting Kamara and a second back for Sharp, I still don't think I'll do it personally, just because in 1 week from now, 2 weeks from now, knock on wood, hopefully Kenny Three Sticks, Ken Walker is still upright and doing great. But, if something were to happen to him, all of a sudden, that trade, you didn't need that trade because you got the volume right there, and you got a running back that coming out looked great. In the case of Spears, you've got a running back that's already shown it. He's proven in the system. He's eating into Henry, and now with the Tannehill, ankle injury, who knows what that offense is going to look like? They may lean even more on that running back room. So that would kind of be my approach with those type of players. Is if I could tier up and go after somebody, I probably would do that. But to tier sideways or even down, maybe just because of production, I don't think I would do that at this point.
Yeah, and your patience can pay off with, God forbid, an injury that happens, which we're not hoping for. But that's why you draft some of those players. Obviously, we were thinking maybe you'd get a little more usage with Kendra and Charbonnet early, but it didn't quite. Same thing with Bigsby. There was some upside there, but I think still good players. But yeah, I like where we're heading there. How about James Cook, guy that we haven't talked about a ton. Any interest there? None for you, KJ?
Nope.
There's
Leonard Fournette just landed in Buffalo, so.
Yeah. With Harris out, and hopefully Harris is full recovery, but it's more the usage there. Like I just don't quite understand why they haven't thrown him the ball at all. Like and just run him up the middle and I don't know. It just I like the talent, but that's one of those system wide situations where I think I would stay kind of like up until this last couple games. Pacheco was kind of in there for me. Like the system in Kansas City doesn't always rely on, you'll get these spurts with your running backs, but you don't get much. Obviously the difference in Buffalo is Josh Allen being a running quarterback. He can steal points at the goal line, but still it's just the way that they're using Cook. For me, I'm just kind of like, yeah, I think I'd rather add a Brian Robinson, who's kind of, I think, in that similar tier right now for most dynasty players, and feel pretty good about that because at least his usage, he's getting some targets. He's probably getting around the same amount of targets as Cook is, but he seems to be kind of locked into his general role, which would be like a running back 2 to running back 3 status, running back 2 tier, right, to a 13 through 24, not running back 2 overall. Just want to make sure we're on the same page. Like if I could plug him into my second running back spot on my lineup, or even have him in there as a flex play, that's a type of player I would probably go after over Cook. Yeah, or Najee. I think Najee's another interesting story. He's just been so down that I feel like this would be a different play, though. I don't know if this is one of those plays where I might look at just the price check on him, because the price has got to be every week. It's just
dropping.
He's dropping and dropping and dropping. And he produced last year. Whatever the reason, he was producing last year. This year he's not producing. So I see like a buy window for me there, where I might, even if I'm not a contender, I might look to, maybe if I'm selling one of these guys, maybe I'm looking to get back Najee plus a lot more, because Najee's value is down so far, and hope for a bounce back, right? Like that might be a play that if I have one of these players and I know I'm not competing, that I sell to get some value on potentially on the back end. But I'm not selling one for one. Like I'm not going to sell Kamara straight up for Najee at this point, because I don't think you have to. I think you could probably get a little bit of juice on that, and I feel really great about adding Najee in a second to my team and getting rid of Kamara on an aging, on a team where I want to flip and do some deals
in a different direction.
Yeah, exactly. Mm-hmm.
What's your thoughts on Brian Robinson? Somebody that we mentioned at the top as one of those kind of targets that may be interesting for a running back needy team. What are your thoughts there, KJ?
Brian Robinson, he's definitely somebody. I don't know if you're getting him cheap. That's the thing, is I think that people that have him are excited with what they've got out of him so far. I mean, it hasn't always, been amazing, because he's been, I think, sub 10 points on 2 different games, Buffalo, Chicago, which are games that I thought he might actually be a lot better on. So maybe it's something that you could field out there and see what the price is at least. I don't know what you're adding him for. I don't know what you're going to be able to trade for him. I don't hate it. Let's put it that way. He's not something that excites me. I'm not actively targeting him, but he's definitely somebody where if you're in RB hell and you've just lost everybody, feel it out, see what the price is. He's, the 14 overall running back in PPR leagues right now. So, he's definitely a usable RB2 with upside.
Yeah, I look at it the same way. He's not somebody I'm over anxious to get, but at least he just seems solid. And that might be all you need right at this moment. I'm trying to find a good maybe price point for him, and nothing's really jumping out on me. But would you trade Charbonnet in a 2 for Brian Robinson? I think so, right? No. D?
No, I wouldn't.
No.
Going back to what we were talking about, I think Sharp's upside is higher. So,
well, yeah, this is one of those things where I like to go and let's just say, you've had a rough stretch, right? You only have 2, maybe 3 wins through 6 weeks. If you're coming through this game, go take a look at your points for and go look at your points against. Have you been a bad team, or have you just been unlucky? Because then you'll know whether you're actually in the RB market, and that will definitely sway you whether you're pushing in a bit more. So definitely go take a look and just compare it to your league and just see if you've been unlucky and could have actually had some wins that you wouldn't have otherwise had. So
yeah, and
that's what tells me if I'm in the RB market or not.
Right. And you can go a step further with that and kind of look at, sometimes that even can be a little misleading, because maybe you faced the most points 2 weeks in a row that just had the 2 blow up games on you. So you can kind of dissect that even a little bit more. But I think that's a really good point and a good way to gauge that. Is there any other points anybody would like to make, or any other players you'd like to kind of throw in the ring here?
I'm going to body Najee Harris. This snap share is terrible, man. Like he's not even cracking 60% anymore. He's in an even split with Jaylen Warren. I hope they change that, but I definitely didn't think that was going to happen. I thought Warren was going to be more of a complimentary piece, and he's 50-50, like it pretty legitimately over.
Well, they just have
the
had nothing. They've had nothing going in the running game. And Jaylen Warren's been catching the ball, catching passes, which is the other thing that's really, Najee's a good pass catcher for what he is. And Jalen's been getting, lion's share of the actual pass catches. So, Najee's had some okay moments in some games, but yeah, I mean, there's really nothing going on in that run game. But yeah, I don't mind. He is sort of a buy low for me, because I do think there is better days ahead. I don't think he'll be at 5 points a game or wherever he's at right now. So I don't hate that idea. I mean, Rachaad White is not anybody I'm real interested in grabbing at this point. Is anybody super into Rachaad White?
I'm not. No.
Yeah. Ramondre is an interesting one.
But I mean, Rachaad White is past the bye. That's one of the nice things.
Yeah. I mean, Mixon, is always there, and he's been fine all season long. So, he's healthy, upright, and on a potentially decent offense. Ramondre's had a bad stretch here and hasn't been good. Was injured, came back and scored in this game. But man, I don't know if I want anything affiliated to the Patriots right this minute. But if we can get that targets per route run back up for Ramondre, I think we saw 5 catches from him in this last game. If that happens, maybe there's some use there. So yeah, I mean, just to recap there, I mean, I think Kamara and Pacheco are amongst maybe the cheaper possibilities of buys right now, navigating that. And then you throw Aaron Jones in the mix. And I think Brian Robinson lies somewhere north of those guys in price right now. Don't you think?
Yeah, I think he'll cost you more. I think you can get Aaron Jones cheaper, and that's a move that I'm trying to make. Yeah.
And then JT and I think Swift are decent options. I liked all that talk. Anything else before we close up shop here on some kind of navigating these troubled waters of the RB market right now?
I don't really have much. I mean, I guess the only player that I would also kind of want to touch on is just Dameon Pierce and what you're doing with him. Ugh. It's been
dying.
Yeah, it's been rough in the streets there for him, but he may be. I don't know. I don't have a feel on him, so that's why I think that might be a player that we could talk about real quick. If either of you have an opinion on him, I know Casey, you were pretty high on him, but I don't have a lot of shares, and kind of like that. You took the cover off there, KJ. I don't have any Brian Robinson, so you saying that his value is higher is good, because if you have him, he's one of those players where if you have him, then if you don't have him, then obviously in my case, I see that as I see his numbers, but I don't look at him as the same as Aaron Jones. But Aaron Jones being out, and that, I think now that you say that, I could see that being a cheaper. So that's a great point. And then just to piggyback on your points for, points against type of thing, I think that's a great play. And like Casey was saying, make sure you look at your points for and compare that column by itself, and don't worry about the points against at that moment, just to see where you're at, because you could be the 4th ranked team in points and just gotten blown out because you've played every team that scored the most points of the week, right? Because this year we've seen some just unbelievable individual performances that I haven't gone back and charted it yet, but I mean, I just got to believe that the 50-point games that we've seen this year in PPR leagues is just. It's got to be at least double than what it.
I can't remember any
is for
this
season,
many this quickly.
Let alone now. So.
Yeah, it also just does seem like defense has been better than offense in a lot of cases, at least to start the season. So that's interesting. Yeah, Dameon Pierce, man, I've been a supporter of him for a while. It's not looking super great right now, and I don't think he looks necessarily bad. It seems like one of those deals where it's just not working out right now. I don't know what you can do with him. Probably not a whole lot. I have one share in the 12 leagues or so that I have, and I think me and Big Co, and it's on a shared team. I think we might have traded Miles Sanders for Dameon Pierce at the end of last season when somebody was trying to make some noise in the playoffs. So at that point, I don't know who, it seems like we're all semi-neutral there. Mm-hmm. But no, man, I don't know what to do. I don't have a great answer. And, right now that'd be, if we were doing the handing out L's show, that would certainly be one of the ones right now this year that I would have to take as long, as well as the Dotson that we talked about on the wide receiver rookies. I couldn't have seen that coming from them. The thing with Dameon Pierce is I just, for this offense to be ascending in the direction that it's going, and for him not to have the production, or at least just be double digits most weeks, I think is a little bit troubling to me. But man, the juice seems to be there. It just doesn't seem to be, it seems like he has to work really hard for not a whole lot. And, if we could get a little more pass volume, but yeah, it's not great. I don't know what you could do for Dameon Pierce at this point.
Well, what's killing you with Dameon Pierce is that you can't bench him. Like that's the biggest problem, right? Is that he's in your lineup every week, and it's just, I mean, what are you going to do? Because the moment you bench him, he's going to have those 20-point game. Yeah, so it's frustrating, man. Like I would still probably field it out there that I'm interested to maybe move Dameon Pierce, see what the offers look like, if anybody's willing to have that discussion, because there's still plenty of people who believe that he's going to turn it around and he's going to be, somebody who's an in and out or every week starter. And, you know, they could be right, but I'm willing to move off the risk at this point.
Yeah. Unfortunately, I don't think it's just going to be a hard sell. I mean, I think if you could swap Pierce for Pacheco right now, you'd be in heaven, just for your lineup every week.
Well, and the only reason why I bring him up is because I feel like he's kind of in that Najee Harris field right now. Like if we're talking about tiers, right? He's kind of in that tier where if I'm selling one of these guys because I'm not competing this year, he may be somebody that I'm trying to get back to add. He's not my main thing that I'm trying to grab. But if I'm selling Kamara, I'm selling Eckler. Obviously, if I'm selling Eckler, I'm selling him for more than I am for Kamara. But point being is like Pierce, Harris, those are running backs that I might get back in addition to whatever value that I've already placed on the player to make it to make it done. Or to say it a different way, do I put a third in there and get back, do I trade a player like Kamara in a third and get back Najee Harris in a second? Mm-hmm. Upgrade my third to a second and, take out Kamara and put in Najee Harris. And I know I'm not competing. So that also helps my 101 overall, right? Like those are moves that I'm thinking about at this point of the season where, okay, I'm going to reduce my points per game probably because Najee doesn't seem to be having it going or Pierce, pick your poison. Both of them have offensive line problems right now. Both of them have reasons why they their game could accelerate again, in my opinion. So, so those are just two examples of, if you are selling, you don't just have to sell the running back for a draft pick. You can look for those like little gold nuggets that you have some vested interest in, and try to go. And it doesn't have to be running back for running back. You could always do wide receiver.
Sure.
You talked about Dotson, that might be too expensive, but but players like that you can go as well. So that's just another way to look at trades when you're doing them at this point in the season.
Yeah, that's something that I like to kind of do often, is what you're saying is go down, seemingly and grab somebody who's way underperforming, who I think can bounce back a little bit, even if he doesn't bounce back to where maybe he once was. I think there's a value increase in them, and Dameon Pierce and Najee would be guys like that. I mean, Javonte would also be a guy like that. I think Javante's still probably more expensive than those guys, but still hasn't done a whole lot this year. And the Broncos are kind of in a weird spot, but I love that idea of, hey, I'm going to go trade a running back. Hey, you give me back a running back, but I'm still going to get the higher pick in this deal and, get something else back that could go up in value. Like I just traded Alvin Kamara for a 2 and like Josh Downs. I also added Calvin Ridley to that and got Hollywood Brown in the swap. So I traded Kamara and Calvin Ridley. I got Hollywood a second and Josh Downs. So, like and Josh Downs, and I actually ended up getting a 25-3 in there as well. Because I put it up and then for a while had it up for a while and took it down. He's like, hey, is that trade still available? And I was like, I need that 25-3, now. But Josh Downs in that regard was kind of the throw in there where it's like, hey, the value isn't a whole lot right now, but he's somebody trending up and could trend up, and there could be a big value spike there. That wasn't a running back for running back deal, but I'm going in the opposite direction. I'm not winning. I'm trying to get worse as far as points in my lineup, and trying to go for that, second, third pick. So, that was just a recent Kamara trade. I do like the idea of trading for Kamara. So anything else before we get out of here, KJ?
No, I'm probably more finding myself on the other side of those kind of trades where I'll try to tier up instead of shut off, because I always feel like I got a shot, right? Like no matter how bad my team can get, sure. I always feel like I got a shot. I just need to turn it around, one trade and it'll do it. Mm-hmm. So I'm usually the one that'll take like a Pierce or a Brian Robinson or even Najee Harris even, and I'll try to tier up to a JT or something like that. It's the ultimate turnaround second half player, in my opinion. Those are the guys that I'm trying to get who have been underperforming, but we know have lasting power. So
sure.
So that's the only thing I say is just, know how you want to custom build your teams and just kind of lean into it. If you're a player that wants to tier up constantly and build that powerhouse, there's nothing wrong with that. Just make sure you don't kill yourself.
Yep. No, I agree. And I think in the cases of me and Big D, we're talking about teams that are going the other way rather than, but yes, the tier up is certainly should be in your wheelhouse of moves. So I think looking at it both ways is very much needed.
Yeah, just don't sell off your season too early. You know what I mean? Too many people will just abandon all hope when you're just 5 games in.
Right. And I kind of alluded to that at the beginning of this of like, hey, some of those teams I started out hot, it's looking like maybe I might be selling some pieces. And some of those teams where it was like, what am I doing here? Like, I traded Kyron on one of those teams and now I got JT back. Not that he's been helping me out, but the rest of my team really excelled there. And, Lamar's crushing it. And, Sutton's giving me points in my 4th flex or whatever. And, Nico Collins is crushing it. And, all of a sudden, you got a team that's, and Treylon and Jameson are down there on the bottom of that bench being like, if I could get points from one of those guys, I got a real good chance, and the league isn't super top heavy either, which is always helpful that, there might be one team that's really good and the rest of the players are kind of, spread out. So that's also a very good point. I know we're talking about the idea of moving guys and it's for somewhat of content and just to start giving you ideas of values of guys, but you're not in that spot where you have to absolutely be doing this right at this moment. It's just an idea to get where the values kind of stand here. I think it's a very good point, KJ.
Yeah, and I think that's also key. Just to final thought for me is just you don't have to do anything at this moment right now. Like you don't have to. We talk about sometimes you get what you get, but at the same time, it's we're in week 6. We've still got plenty of ball to go. There's some I don't know what you call them, bye week hells coming. There's apocalypses, that are coming. Unfortunately there's going to be some more injuries. There's going to be some more movement. So these values can fluctuate, and you don't, if you don't feel comfortable, and KJ, you talked about this, make your team the way you want it, and if you don't feel comfortable doing something, don't just because we said it or because you heard it somewhere else that this is a good deal. If you don't think it's a good deal, don't do the deal, man. Like this is also about having fun and about you're a manager of your team. So, we give this advice. We try to put in a bunch of examples there for you, but a lot of that is just to get you thinking about your own team and about what moves you could do that are similar that you feel really good about. So, so take our advice, mostly these two guys, these experts on here, but also don't be afraid to think for yourself, make your own little tiers, do little things like that, because those small little ticks that you make definitely will improve your game as you go along. So if you're a new Dynasty player, that's one of the biggest things I'll say is just don't be afraid to take some notes. Don't be afraid to make your own tiers. Don't be afraid to make your own deals, and don't feel like you have to get X value because that's what everyone's saying, because this is a game, values change drastically. And if you really, really feel good about somebody, go for it, dude. That's, having Puka on your team right now, if you were a Puka believer or even if you weren't, but you came on late, having him on your team, you're just like, hell yeah. It's wonderful. It's a great, even if you're, maybe not if you're losing, but if you're, if you're winning and things are feeling good, it's even better to have those type of players that you felt it down in your plums that you wanted to add on. So. Right. Yeah, no, I mean, some of the trades that I felt, like I won the best on, and 2 years later, you're like, damn, that really wasn't great, Yeah. Both sides of the coin for Todd Gurley as an example. I mean, the dude was just unbelievable. And then all of a sudden he didn't have any value ever. Like it just was lots of value to no value almost overnight. And so things happen, man. Just have fun, play your game, and hit the like button because you made it this far. Yeah. KJ, anything else before we get out of here?
Just one little tidbit that I like to throw out for a lot of people is just it's never too early to take a look at your players' playoff matchups. That's one thing that I like to look at for RBs, especially is just do they have a good playoff schedule? That's something, if you keep that in the back of your mind, don't make it everything about the trade, but that's something that you should definitely consider when you're trying to build a team that is going to have some lasting power. It's never too early to take a look. Yeah, it's in a book. It's Reading Rainbow. All right. We appreciate you guys. Hit us with them 5 stars. Hit us with thumbs up, likes, all that jazz. You can go over to the FF Dynasty Patreon. Hit us with a $5 holler. You get 3 extra episodes a month over there. You get access to the Discord, all that good stuff. And more importantly, you're supporting the team. So we appreciate you guys. We'll catch you next time. Peace.